Hi, welcome to this week's edition of PHQ, questions from the personality hacker community. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
And Addison, let's get right to our question today.
Hi, Antonia and Joel. I've been listening to your podcast for a few months now, and I must say that I find it both intriguing and beneficial for my personal growth. I'm an INFP, and I found out a few weeks ago that my best friend for the past 8 years is an ESTJ, my shadow type. We've had our ups and downs in our friendship, almost ending it a few times, but we always seem to rekindle it. Is it probable that our opposite personalities will be the detriment of our friendship? Or are there strategies we can use to cope with having such different cognitive functions? Thank you, Sarah. Thanks,
Sarah, for the question. It's interesting that we get a lot of questions around people in relationship that are very different personalities, asking, is this going to work out? Am I going to be in this romantic relationship for the long haul? Or are we going to end up breaking up because we're so different? Often even friends will write in and ask these questions. So this is a question that comes up a lot. And one of the things that we would encourage you to look at beyond just the personality type that you two bring to the table is, do you have shared values and interests? We really firmly believe that is the determining factor between two different personalities getting along over the long term. Because if you can share the values and interests that you have in common, you can look past a lot of the different personality quirks and the different ways that you show up to the world to experience those shared values and interests.
Yeah, on top of that, remember that Myers-Briggs is just one, I almost want to say one illusion. All of these models and maps, they're just stories we tell ourselves to try to figure out who we are. Now, that might seem to massively undermine, the content that we love and share and love to, promote and talk about because we think it's a powerful tool, but it's also just one story. There are a lot of other maps and models and stories and narratives and illusions that we bring to a situation. There's the Enneagram typology system. What if you guys are the exact same Enneagram types, or maybe even very compatible Enneagram types? If you're in the same age bracket, if you have the same cultural background, if you come from maybe the same town, if you've got a lot of those things in common, then your Myers-Briggs type is going to be just one piece of the puzzle. However, it is a powerful and influential piece of the puzzle, so knowing you guys are so different is going to actually help you do the one thing I would recommend you do, which is learn how the other person is wired and meet them in their sandbox if at all possible. If both of you really enjoy each other's company, if you do have, as Joel mentioned, shared values and interests, if you have a lot in common that goes beyond just your Myers-Briggs type, then obviously there's something there to save. And I would just say, kind of figure out, why is this person driving me crazy right this moment? Oh, it's because they're using an evaluation criteria that is the mirror opposite of mine. Can I appreciate where they're coming from? Can I see what they're doing as maybe very different than mine, but sort of magically appropriate for the situation? Can I really meet them where they're at and try to really appreciate what they're bringing to the table, which is very different than what I'm bringing to the table? So if you can come from a position of, it's not necessarily this concept of we're total opposites and let's call the whole thing off. It's more like there's attraction in polarity, and I'm attracted for some reason, and it may have to do with a lot of other things that we have very much in common, and then we have this thing that's different, and that's creating some polarity. And can we hold space for each other's differences while at the same time really appreciating our similarities?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to remember that you as an INFP are probably going to have to do a little bit more double duty than an ESTJ would, because you're intuitive and you've been most likely around people who are sensors your whole life. You have learned the skill of being bilingual in this world, where you can speak very intuitive language, you do abstract thinking, you like outside the box thinking, behind the curtain thinking, but you also probably have developed some skill around communicating with people that don't lead with that type of process or that type of thinking. And so just by default, you're going to have to probably do a little bit more of the heavy lifting in the relationship of meeting the other person halfway, or a little more than halfway even, because that's just how it is basically for you.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably true with most intuitive sensor relationships. However, I have noticed that ESTJs can have a strong interest in typology. And usually they're looking for ways to utilize it in like a business context or something that's, you know, like it's applicable and it plays out in the real world, and they can understand how these patterns work. So, it can help give them leverage. So an ESTJ actually might, interestingly enough, be more into typology and concepts around that than maybe some of the other sensory types. One thing you have really in common, I was just thinking about it, one thing you guys have massively in common is that if you look at each other's car models, or what we call the cognitive function stack, you guys share each other's co-pilot and 10-year-old functions, but in reversed positions. So both of you are using what we call extroverted intuition or exploration and introverted sensing or memory. Both of you are using those processes as your co-pilot and 10-year-olds, only in reverse. So there's actually a lot of common ground you have there. There's going to be a lot of trying to figure out how to navigate the world, balancing these two processes of tried and true versus novelty. Both of you will have that relationship going on inside of you on an unconscious level. And you could share some of your experiences there. That's probably a lot of where you guys are meeting in the middle of attraction. Where you're going to see the biggest discrepancy is your guys' driver and 3-year-old processes, because you're both sharing those too, but they're in reverse. And these are unconscious for you. They're unconscious. They're deeply part of your identity. And also, they are decision-making processes, or what's technically called a judging process. So that's probably where you're going to see the biggest friction happen. Your friend's going to be leading with extroverted thinking, or what we call effectiveness, and you'll be leading with introverted feeling, or what we call authenticity. And authenticity and effectiveness, when they're done well and when you guys are developed, the talent that you bring with authenticity is going to look like magic to your effectiveness friend, and vice versa. So there are areas even with your personality, your Myers-Briggs personality cognitive function stack makeup, that are actually finding a lot of common ground there, particularly your co-pilot and 10-year-old positions. And then there is that massive polarity and sort of magic thinking quality that you guys will bring to the relationship as well, going, I don't even know how you do that, but it's amazing that you do that. And you can help each other find that part of themselves within themselves, because it's deeply unconscious and a blind spot. So even though you are exact opposites in the dichotomies, you're not exact opposites of cognitive functions, not completely. You guys have reversed cognitive function positions in your co-pilot and 10-year-old, but that will actually give you some common ground. You'll both be struggling with a very similar struggle. It's just you have two different outcomes you're reaching towards. So pursue that cognitive function stack understanding, pursue understanding your car model. And then I think if you go down that road and really find where you guys have common ground there, I think your story about you guys being complete opposites and that's not ever going to work out, I think your story will change. I think you will see actually how much you guys have in common.
Thanks, Sarah, for the question. I would love to invite you, and if you're also listening, not Sarah, and you'd like to come over and join a community of like minds, people who think very similar to you, that are focused on growing themselves and personal growth through the lens of personal typology, I'd like to invite you to come over to facebook.com/personality hacker. We also have an intuitive awakening group we've just started up. If you go to facebook.com/intuitive awakening, there's a button there you can click, and you can join our new intuitive awakening group of people that are on this journey together, that are sharing ideas, that are talking about type, talking about personal growth, talking about all these issues together. And I think it's a great community for you to plug yourself into and have support there for the type of growth that you want to do in your life, especially if you'd like to be a transformational leader going forward as an intuitive in this world.
Yeah, I just checked. We just started this Intuitive Awakening group. I just checked. We already have 350 members. I mean, it's growing fast. So come join the conversation. I think you'll really like it.
Absolutely. You can also find us on twitter.com/personality hack. And of course, we have a ton of articles, recordings, videos, trainings, and programs over at our main website, personalityhacker.com. I'd invite you to come over there. You can also take a personality test there and find out your type if that's something you're curious about. If you have more questions for us, we answer these questions once a week on this show, PHQ. You can go to personalityhacker.com/questions, and you can either record a question or you can type one in, write one in on the online form there for us to address on future shows. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
Thanks for being a part of this episode of PHQ Questions from the Personality Hacker community. We'll talk to you next time.